Okay. Yesterday my video got chopped up, so I didn't upload it because for some I don't know what's going on, but my OBS like just stopped recording and then started recording again, and I didn't feel like I don't use a video editor, so I mean I could, but I'm not even sure if there was any content missed in between, so it's whatever. And, okay. So I'll just I guess cover these notes again. Assumptions that something someone says has the same implications as if you said it. This is pretty straightforward. So if you hear something that someone says, a lot of the time you'll interpret it to have the meaning that it would have if you were the one who said it. And the words could mean something different to the person speaking. So it's important to recognize that you may have to understand the words they're saying from a different perspective to actually understand what it is they're saying. Knowledge and experience is to have access to better ways. So now if you were to watch the past you do what it is that you do now, let's say whether it's a study, math, your profession, carpentry, whatever it is that you do, if you were to watch yourself do it when you first started, you would go, I would do this better this way, I would do this better that way. I know better ways to do that, and so on. So you know that having more knowledge and experience would mean that you would know how to do things with better ways. And the key here is that if you know that the way you're doing it now is inferior and has mistakes, then you'll be able to have your eye out for ways to improve, so that you can, compound your improvements faster, iterate. Look at a goal of yours that you feel is elusive, as in difficult to achieve. Write down what you do to achieve the goal. I mean, writing things down is kind of a big commitment. Like a lot of the times we almost kind of avoid writing things down because writing things down is almost like a way to come face to face with what it is that we say, think, or do. And and confronting ourselves can be intimidating because we know that the way we do things, the way we say things, the way we think is flawed, but we can pretend it's not until we come face to face with it. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a thought, a very fleeting thought. It's an idea. It sounds like a great idea in your head. It sounds simple, easily understood, and straightforward. But if you were to try to say it out loud, or explain it to someone else, or write it down as if you're teaching it, then you start to realize the flaws in your plan, especially when you try to read it back to yourself. You realize the holes that you didn't account for, the caveats that you didn't address. And then, or maybe like the flaw just doesn't work because of these things. So a lot of the time when you confront your own thoughts, actions, or words, you start to realize how flawed they are. So if you write down the things you achieve, and then think of it as if it was someone else telling you that they have this goal and this is what they do to achieve the goal, you might come to go, of course they don't achieve the goal. And so if that's the case, then maybe, anyways. Put down history markers. I said I was thinking something about this topic yesterday. I can't remember what exactly it was. But essentially, it's basically, I guess it comes down to writing down again. But if you first of all, this comes down to framing. So if you feel like life sucks, or if you feel that things don't never go your way, then you're going to confirm that belief, because that's what you look out for. So let's say if you find things negative, then start writing things down that are positive, and don't not about the past. I'm not don't write down the good things that happened in the past. That's not what I mean. I mean, write down the good things that happen day to day, or write down things that happen in a good way. And this is important. Don't write down the negative things. Don't even write it down. And here's why. It's because you get to manipulate history. And your memories are not history. Your memories is the story you tell yourself about history. And by history, I mean your past experiences, the history of your life. And the story you tell yourself dictates what it is. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you write in this diary, I had to go grocery shopping today because I have no food. Or you write in this diary, I went grocery shopping today and came back with a lot of food. I'm excited to eat this week. The event is the same. The event was that you went grocery shopping. And it doesn't matter how you felt when you went grocery shopping. None of that matters. What matters is that a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, when you read this journal filled with entries like that, you're going to go, those years were good. I'm happy with the way things are going. This is the way it's going to be going in the future. Like, it literally changes. You rewrite your own history. You can write your history the way you want. So why would you not make it a positive force? And here's the thing. You don't have to rewrite your current history. You write your present, which becomes your history in the future. So I'm not like you. If you feel negative, right? It's not about. I'm not saying I don't do it. I'm not saying you should do it. But if I felt very negative, then I could start doing that, and then in a month, when I look back, I would feel better. In a year, when I look back, I would feel better, and then over time, it would help reframe my thinking. I think so that's basically the idea. Lucky and unlucky confirmation bias. Okay, so this is the same vein, same topic. If you believe you're lucky, then you will be lucky. If you believe you're unlucky, then you will be unlucky. Why is that? Well, it's simple. It's because you'll see what you look out for. You'll find what you look out for. If you look at a tree outside, then the things aside from the tree aren't going to be very clear. I mean, you have an idea of what's there, but if I were to ask you the color of the house over there, then you would look at the house. You wouldn't just say it while staring at the tree. I mean, you know the color, but your peripheral vision it is not actually what you are observing. Your peripheral vision, by meaning, is just things that to help you look out for potentially new information. They're not giving you the information, but they're keeping track in case there's new information. Like if you see movement, then you can take a look. But if there's movement, you don't actually know exactly what's going on until you shift your focus, right? It's like only what you're focused on is the true information you're observing. So, if you believe you're lucky, you're focused on the things that prove that you're lucky. That means you see that you're lucky. Maybe in your peripheral vision, there are things that are negative, but unless you shift your focus to it, then you'll stay lucky, basically. And my favorite example, I'll just go back to the one I've used over and over again because it's the easiest analogy, which is the old one, which is if you tell a skier to not hit the trees, he'll hit the trees. And if you tell a skier to follow the path, he'll follow the path. And in this context, if you tell basically it's like if you tell the skier not to hit the trees, then to him he'll see so many trees. There are so many trees because you're looking out for you're looking for the trees to not hit. So you go, there's a tree there, there's a tree there, there's a tree there, there's a tree everywhere. Tell the skier to follow the path. Then he'll see there's path here, there's path there, there's path everywhere. I just follow the path. If you look for the trees, you will find the trees. And if you look for the path, you'll find the path. So if you believe you're lucky, you'll look out for things that would be that will influence you positively, that will be of good result to you. If you believe you're unlucky, you'll look for reasons you're unlucky. So if you're lucky, you'll look for opportunities. If you believe you're lucky. If you're unlucky, you will see nothing but reasons that you cannot succeed, or reasons that that failed, reasons that your life sucks. And they're going to be valid. They're all valid. Like, there's so much information. The key here is not whether or not you're lucky or unlucky. If you're lucky and you believe you're lucky and you have all of these reasons, they're all valid. If you believe you're unlucky and you have all of these reasons, they're all valid. The question is which ones you look at. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you move to a new place and you go, there's a grocery shop everywhere. Look, search it up on my phone. Where's the nearest grocery shop? It's 5 minutes away. I can walk and get there in five minutes. There's a grocery shop here. So close to me. Found a grocery shop, went there. Took very easy, proved my point. Okay. Or you can go and say, there's no grocery shops here. You look around. That's not a grocery shop. That's not a grocery shop. That's not a grocery shop. I can't find a grocery shop. If you look for things that aren't grocery shops, you're going to find things that aren't grocery shops. If you look for things that are, you're going to find things that are. They're all true. That's not a grocery shop and that is. These are all true statements. The next note, I don't really understand. I don't really understand this note, but I'm gonna go to the next one. This is basically a direct quote. I can't remember which book it was, but this is practically a direct quote. Changing the external is like changing the projection. So let's say you see something through a filter, through your mind, through a lens. On your computer screen. No, wait. Let's say, okay, so basically the statement was trying to change things that are external to change the way you feel is like trying to change the projection rather than trying to change the projector. Like, you know, the old school projectors as an example, or movie projectors. Let's say you don't like the movie. You start going up and messing with the projection rather than trying to go to the computer that controls the projector. Which one's going to actually change what you see? So, basically, if you change what you look at, and you change the way you look at things, then that will change the way you feel about what you see, and that will change what you believe you see, and that will change what you see. But what you believe you see is the most important, because what you see isn't that important, because it's similar to focus, right? If you see a lot, or like a lot of things is within your scope of vision, but you only see very little at a time. And you also see different things from the same image. And I'll give you another example for this, which I actually kind of hate. When I read a book, or this is more about English class. When they gave us a book to read, I read the book and I understood the story. I read one story in my head. And then when they explain their book analysis, I didn't understand anything they were talking about. I felt like they were reading a different book. And that's the same way it's going to be with speech. Because when you understand what other people say, you understand it through your mind, the way your mind understands those words. It's based on your experiences, your thoughts, your beliefs, your opinions, etc. So you're going to understand something completely different than what someone else listening to it might understand. And maybe not person to person, but you will, like, maybe two people can hear the same thing and have relative agreements, but there's going to be someone out there who hears it completely differently. And so, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. But if you want to change what you see, look in a different place. If you want to change the way you feel, look within. Finally, there's a section of the book, Inner Engineering, and I feel like I have to listen to it multiple times because it's so special. I can't remember that clearly. I got the general idea, but I want to hear it a few more times. It talks about the distortion of identity. If you identify as anything, then you're going to view things through that identity. If you identify with your country, you'll view conflicts, international conflicts, very differently. If you identify with your race, you will view the media topics very differently, or discussions, or anything. If you identify with your gender, that will affect your place in discussions that involve gender. If you identify with something that you eat, and so on. So if you identify with a disease, if you identify as being someone who is depressed, then you'll view anything that mentions depression in a very different way. But if you just say, I'm experiencing depression, then you don't have to identify someone who is depressed in terms of life. So you don't have to view it from the perspective of a subject. You can view the discussion from the perspective of an outsider. So when you put yourself inside a pair of shoes, when you put a hat on yourself, it greatly limits your perspective. Okay, there's a couple other notes on my phone that I want to go over. Redirecting habits is like redirecting water. You can't expect to just cut off the flow. You have to give the water somewhere else to go. That rhymed. I'm a genius. So yeah, so if you have a habit you hate, you can't just go, never gonna do it again. You have to go, when I'm about to go fall into this habit, I need to have an alternative. Just like water. Like if you just stop the water's not just gonna stop. Like the water's still going somewhere. Okay. New. What does this one mean? Okay. I'm gonna go back to my notebook. It isn't love, or what is this word? Or in the event that hurts. It is the attachment to the idea of what it is supposed to be. So if you have something that makes you upset, an event, an external observation, it's not what happens that hurts. It is you being attached to what you think it's supposed to be that makes it hurt. For example, corruption. If corruption angers you, it's because you believe that it shouldn't exist. Or like they shouldn't be corrupted or whatever. Fairness. When you yell out in unfairness, it is because you're attached to the idea that it is supposed to be fair. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't feel these feelings. That's what allows us to make better societies compared to thousands of years ago. But you are going to be perpetually frustrated if your expectations are not in line with reality. Or disappointed. Does that mean you should never be disappointed or frustrated? No. But if it is, what's the word? I forgot the word, but chronic. If it's chronic, then that's not an issue with what you're observing. It's an issue with the way you observe it. Okay. Everything can be bad and everything can be good if you believe it. All depends on how you view it. Doesn't mean that like you can view everything as good. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't mean it'll be right. You can view it that if you frame it in a certain way, it is possible to view anything as good. Doesn't mean you should. And the same for bad. But everything does have multiple sides. It's not even two sides of the same coin. Everything has multiple sides. Omnidirectional. And sometimes it is worth changing the way you look at it. Same thing. Sometimes you can look at it the same way, but sometimes you can look at it another way and look at something that you thought was good as bad, or look at something you thought was bad as good. Sometimes you should. Sometimes you should just try it out to decide if you should after you look at your options. Okay. I'll do a few more. The mindset of settling and indignation if something is worse than something you had before. If you had a big house and you switch to a small one, you feel like you're settling for less. You feel indignation. If you experienced a better country and moved to a worse country, you'll feel like you're settling. Or even if you don't, if your expectations are high enough, even without experiencing better things, then you'll have the mindset of settling. This can apply to anything in your life, really. Whether it's all about perspective and reframing the way you view it. Whether it's relationships, whether it's a house, whether it's a car, whether it's a computer, whether it's in a job in terms of the people around you or the income of the job, all of that, if you idealize it or compare it to something better you may have had before, you're likely to feel, am I supposed to settle for this? Do I settle? Am I settling? It's kind of like indignation, right? Or if you go, I don't want this to be my end goal because it's not perfect. And here's the thing. Life is too short to expect perfection in all ways. Now that doesn't mean you should ignore potential for improvement in certain things. But if you are able to accept, not settle, accept certain things, then you can make the most of it by saying, this aspect of my life is decided for now. I'm not going to think about it again. I'm going to focus on other things that are more worth my time, energy, and focus. Then you'll just be happy. If you're constantly making yourself unsatisfied by feeling like something you have is unsatisfactory, could be better, you'll never really be satisfied with anything, because there are too many aspects of your life that could be improved. Too many things you could have that you could have better. Too many things you can want if you look at life that way. And life is too short. It's not about settling for less. It's about finding things in which you can keep discovering why it's good. I guess. No, not quite. I guess when I say that, I'm thinking of, it's not about settling for less, it's about being satisfied with something by virtue of the fact that you chose it. Yes. So basically, it's as simple as making conscious decisions with an attached precondition to your decisions that when I go through with this decision, I will be satisfied with the decision I made. And now I might change it, I make a new decision in the future that will affect the outcome of this decision. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to regret this decision. I can change, I can learn, but I will not regret my decision. I will not question my decision. I will only question whether or not I can make the decision better in the future. Okay, next. I like the feeling, personally, of having efficient systems that are not available by default. That's why idle games don't work, because everybody has access to this system of being AFK and getting value. But if I had a different game that's not an idle game, but I could play it like an idle game, then I feel good. Now, obviously, that becomes better when it actually is in real life, but I don't have those things. But the idea is kind of the same. So I thought this was a note for me because it could help me explore ideas that I'll like in the future. But anyways, I don't value my time. I should, but I write it down because I need to confront the reality that I don't value my time. Not because I don't feel like my time is valuable, but because it is that's how. If I look at my actions, that's what my actions show me, and that I potentially should change that. Anyways. Okay, so I wrote down the note. I've mentioned this before, but this is the place I wrote it down. When you remove the barrier of entry to heavy and voice, only then do you realize how many idiots there are. And an addendum, to make this easier to understand as to why, in terms of an example, there are no stupid questions, but there are many, many stupid answers. And when you hear this one, it does make the previous statement much easier to understand. When you remove the barrier of entry to have your voice, you allow people to give their stupid answers. And that's kind of not great, because if someone has the question and they see all the stupid answers to their question, that's kind of bad for the person asking the question. Okay, that's going to be it. So I covered what was not uploaded in the video yesterday, although there were some things I mentioned, I talked about yesterday that I forgot what I said, and I actually remember liking those things, and I kind of wish they were in my notes instead, because, anyways. And I also covered new stuff for today, so